event is, have you prepared? I'm in business now nearly 15 years. And when I had Go DigiCard, for the first 2 years, I networked and networked and networked. I went to every single event there was. But what I wasn't doing was preparing. I had no goals to go to the event. I had no reason, kind of really didn't zone in on why I was going. So when I talk about goals, I'm talking about, why are you going? Are you going because the speaker's interesting, the topic is good? Are you going because your friends are going, which is not good? Are you going because, you've looked at the attendee list? So you've prepared, you've asked the organizers for the attendee list, and you've had to look through and you've decided, okay, there's 2 or 3 people that I want to connect with that are going to this event. So that would be a really good reason for going. And then also when you're preparing, you should be looking at how are you going to exchange your contact details. So is that going to be via a paper business card, a digital business card now, because you're on Zoom quite a lot with everything that's going on? So you have to think about, how am I going to seal the deal, as in exchange your contact details? So that's really important as well. Something else that you should prepare is your to talk about what you do, and to be able to tell the people that are in that networking event what you do in a very clear way. So how I practiced was, I'd stand in front of my family and have a couple of lines and say what I do, and see if they understood from what I said what it was I did. Okay, the next thing is, as I said, have you checked the attendee list? And what I then do is, so a lot of the work can be done before you actually attend the networking event. So connect with them on LinkedIn, because it's a professional network. I always recommend that you find them on LinkedIn. Arrange an introduction if it is one of those 2 or 3 people that you have found on the attendee list. Arrange an introduction if you find that you've got common connections. Reach out to that person to say, look, would you mind introducing me to them, and tell them that I'm going to be at that event and I'd love to see you. So then your introductions become a lot warmer. I mean, I've been to events where I've gone up to people and they said, oh God, you're my LinkedIn friend. So it's about making that warmer connection, and at least you have a real reason for going to events. Always have your name badge on. It's really important, and have your Zoom name displayed properly as well. This evening I came on as my husband because I'm on his computer and totally forgot. So double check that when you're doing your Zoom call. So that would be things that I would recommend you do with regard to LinkedIn. And what I'm going to show you now is an example of how you can again get in front of those people that are attending that event. So if you look at the top of this slide, you'll see there's already, so I'm getting this email and it's saying good morning, and it's giving me where the event is on. So I can tag the location. It's given me the 3 speakers, and it's giving me all the information I need to create a post. So what I did then was I said, I'm looking forward to hearing, and I tagged the 3 speakers. I tagged the Dublin Chamber because it was their event. I looked to tag the location, but they weren't on LinkedIn. But then I also just took to mention a couple of my colleagues that I knew were attending. That post got amazing traction. So before you even attend the event, you're starting to drive that to people that you're going to be there. So that's really important as well. And you can follow up then afterwards with another post to say, I really enjoyed it, and tag the people that you connected with at the event.
Sorry, Wendy, we're still on your intro slide.
What's that?
We're still on your intro slide.
Oh no, can you not see? I've moved on lots, no?
We can see it's no, we just have it we can see that there's 4 slides here at the side. Is it something that I'm not doing?
Maybe.
Oh, here we go. There you go. Yeah.
I
just went on to the second one there.
Am I still sharing?
You're not. You're back to your.
Okay, sorry. Okay, hang on one second.
Okay, don't worry.
Sorry, I had moved on.
That's okay. No,
the old technical.
You're probably being a bit polite.
Oh, thank you.
No, your chat was really interesting. So yeah, so we can see. Are you prepared?
Okay.
And it's
So if I go
yeah,
on to that, can you see it now?
yeah.
My back
There
at
we
my
go.
intro.
There we go. Yeah, yeah.
So
Now we go. Yeah. So
okay.
yeah, we have it.
Okay. So that was the
Brilliant.
one I was talking
Yeah,
about. Sorry, guys. That was the
that's okay.
email. So you might understand a bit better what I was trying to say. So that was the email I got before the event. So I took that and put it onto LinkedIn and tagged. And actually, the engagement from the speakers really helped me before I arrived as well, because it was another thing that it was a reason to chat. So it was good. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to talk about. Have I moved on to the next slide, just to be sure?
Yeah, yeah. You're doing
Okay.
great.
So, so the next thing was first impressions last. So just to talk about making sure that you're presentable. Unfortunately, the times we're in, you're doing Zoom calls for networking quite a lot. Try and make sure that you haven't got your washing out behind you, or that there's anything unpleasant behind you that you shouldn't be. You're in a professional network, so things like that. And if you're actually going to physical networks, which hopefully we're going to be going back doing soon, again, just take heed of what the dress code should be, and have that nice firm handshake when we could do it, all those things. So just keep an eye on your first impression. That first 30 seconds is always really important. Okay, so when you're talking to people, it's always important at the beginning to be interested. You're not selling. Listen to what the person is saying to you. And that knowledge is really what, the power that is going to happen for you. So you're going to have that knowledge. So you can say to them, I find what you do really, really interesting. That person's going to then say, wow, that she was very nice. And they're going to want to continue to listen to you. But they'll also in turn want to listen to what you do, because you've given them the honor of listening to them. So just listen to what they have to say. You won't use your own material up as well. Sometimes you can be nervous. It's easier to listen first, and then, as I said, you'll make the person feel important. Okay, so one of the big bugbears, certainly in Ireland, is that when you're at an event, do not sell your business to anybody. It should be, what you're doing is you're trying to get that person to engage with you and want to basically meet up for a coffee. And that's a win at an event. It's not somebody saying to you, I want to do business with you. I was at an event, and it's unpleasant to be sold to. I mean, there's been many occasions, and you do tend to switch off, because you want to. What you should do is develop a way of telling people what you do, but in a non-salesy way. So definitely just look at you're trying to sell a coffee. That's basically it. Okay, and the other big thing is that, remember, you're not just networking with me. So what I mean by that is that we all know somebody who can do something else. So say, for example, I met a really nice guy in an event, chatting away to him, I was telling him everything that I do. But when I did that, you could see he kind of glazed over, because he realized that I wasn't going to buy from him because he owned a big cleaning company. So I was a one-man band, so I wasn't going to be hiring a cleaning company. He glazed over, didn't give me his business card, and walked away. What happened then was I went home the next day chatting to my mom, who works for a very large corporate company here. And she said to me, when did you know anybody in the cleaning industry? So he totally missed out on that opportunity to do business, because if he had been nice to me, I would have said, well, guys, I met a guy last night, really, really nice, and passed on his card to my mom. So always remember, you're not just networking with that one person that you meet. Okay, again, it's back to the helping, don't sell. So how can you help somebody? So when you're talking to somebody, make sure that you're asking, how can I help you with your business? It's not just about the whole take in your business. Another thing is the polite entrance and exit. So when we talk about a polite entrance, is in networking, when you arrive into a room, if you find that two people are standing like this, they're looking at each other talking, and that's not a good group to go over to, because they're engaging with each other, they're chatting away. Whereas if they're standing kind of angled out a little bit, it's an open group. So you can go over, they're inviting you into their group. But if this is a closed group and this is an open one, so just be aware of that. Some of the good, look, I mean, sometimes I'm sure we all have experienced it. You can be at a networking event and get talking to somebody, and you both know that, you know, you've a reason to be there. You've picked the people you want to talk to, the 2 or 3 people. So you don't want to get caught talking to somebody for, you know, an hour or so. You know, you want to be able to politely say, it was lovely to meet you, and move on. So some good ideas are, you know, a bathroom break or a coffee break, or just simply, let's stay connected. It was lovely talking to you. Or if somebody else is around, or have you met such and such, is a good way to leave the conversation, or just level with them, because a saying we say here is, what's good for the goose is good for the ganders, and that means they may want to leave talking to you as well. So, you know, sometimes you just have to level up and say, you know, there's someone over there I see that is on my list of people to talk to tonight. So never feel that you can't just walk away in a nice way. So if you look at growing your network, if you went to one event a month and made 4 contacts at each event, you know, don't think that you're going to go to events and meet 10 or 20 people and go home with a wad of business cards. You can't possibly have made proper connections if you go home with 20 business cards to an event that was maybe on for an hour or 2. So you need to give it more time. So if you make 4 connections, it's 48 warm leads a year. And out of that, we say you could make an average of 5 possible new sales. And depending on your business, they could be, you know, really good connections. One of the big things that people don't do is follow up. And it's so, so important. You really should have some kind of a way to follow up with people, whether that's inserting your business cards into a CRM that you collected. You know, our digital business cards actually are connected to an Excel spreadsheet, so they automatically connect. So find the best way for you to get the data that you've collected from the business cards and get it into your CRM, and send a little message, whether it's even a text message to say the next day, thanks so much, it was lovely meeting you at that event last night. And that's it. There doesn't have to be an agenda behind it, but they'll remember that you actually took the time to do that. So it makes you stand out from everybody else that was at that event. So just some takeaway tips. So be prepared, be interested, not interesting. All you're selling is a coffee. Remember, you're not just networking with that person. Help, don't sell, and follow up. And that's really my presentation for you guys. I hope it was a few little takeaways for you tonight.
Excellent, Wendy. Listen, thank you so much for that. That was really
You're welcome. I'll stop sharing now.
Now, before I have a question for you, but before I ask, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to ask Wendy a question? Don't be shy. Okay, I'll start off first then. What would you say, Wendy, to, you know, sometimes these networking events, you know, can be tough if you're starting off at first, you know, and you can be, you know, you could have a really good business idea, but you know, you're lacking that confidence to, you know, coming into a room, you know, having 30 or 40 people, you know, in the room, and, you know, you have to, you know, you find it then intimidating.
It's nerve-wracking. It is nerve-wracking. I think really, Claire, the important part of that is the preparation. I really think that will take that nervous feeling away from it. So if you've connected with people that are going to be at that event on LinkedIn, or, you know, you've reached out to those people to say that you'd like to chat to them, or that there is something in common that you have, you know, at least you have one or two people there at that event that you know you've arranged to meet. And you never know, they might go, oh God, thank God, because I've nobody to meet either. Or, you know, and also another a big thing you do is go reach out to the organizers. You know, if you wanted to, you could reach out to them and say, would you facilitate an introduction for me? And they could bring you over to whoever it is you found on the list that you want to talk to, and say, you know, would it be all right? And this is Wendy, and she'd love to have a chat with you. And that's how you do it. And it is nerve-wracking at the beginning. I always remember going into the Chamber of Commerce at the beginning, and oh my goodness, it was just a room full of, you know, business people in all the suits and everything. And you do feel intimidated. And like you say, you know, your business idea is brilliant. But again, it's just a learning curve. I like I said, I networked for 2 years solid. And when I stopped, people actually rang me and said, is everything okay? You're not at any of the events, like, you know. So, but that has stood me, like so many people know me now. I'm always, you know, I'm known, but now what I'm trying to do is focus on what it is I'm actually trying to do myself. Whereas I was just kind of getting out there and making sure I was seen. It's all part of your brand awareness as well.
Yeah. So maybe, I suppose,
really.
Practice maybe going to these events, even though it mightn't be a natural, you know, still practice. And the research, the preparation, maybe what I do when I go to networking events is you know, there could be 1,000 people there, and I look at the attendance
list,
you know, list, and then I identify which businesses and people that I'm looking for, and then I actually do research on them. And I work in higher education, so I might look at a paper that they've published, you know, so just to say, look, I've, you know, read up on you, I find your work very interesting, and that can be
completely. That's a great way to do it. Like, really, I mean, stroke someone's ego, you know.
And academics love when
that.
And one thing I found as well is I think body language is really important.
Yeah, of course.
What do you think, or what are your opinions on that?
Oh, definitely. Like, I mean, the old folded arms is like a no. It's, you know, keep your hands out, be expressive, use your hands a lot when you're talking, you know, be inviting. It's a bit like the closed and the open groups, you know, being open to conversation. If you're standing there and, you know, you're on your phone, oh, it's the worst thing. Do not take out your phone if you're at a networking event, unless you're sharing something. But no, I think, you know, leave it in the bag. You're there to talk to each other. You're there to build relationships. You know, that's really what networking is about. It's about that relationship between the people that you meet, and it's building it. And, you know, it might just be the start of a really good relationship that night. You know, you just don't know. So, and if you've got your head in the phone, oh Lord, it's the worst thing.
Yeah,
it's the worst thing. So
I have another question for you.
Yeah, sure.
What would you, if you're at a networking event and you want to speak to somebody, okay, you want to make that connection with them, and you have your goals and you're prepared, okay, and you're talking to them, but you feel like, you know, you're kind of losing them, or they're looking around the room. What do you do, or do you have any advice? Or has that ever happened to you? I mean, you're probably so charming that it's never happened, but you know what I mean? When you're trying to go, yes, you can get this person.
Yeah. Do you know what I would say in that instance is you need to look at your intro. You need to look back at what you've said to them. What, you know, you've obviously not captured their attention enough for them that they're looking over your shoulder. So you need to go back and look at why they haven't engaged, and maybe go from there. It's really a learning curve with people. It certainly happened to me on numerous occasions. But again, look, you know, you're not going to connect with everybody. You're not going to have that relationship with everybody. There's going to be times you'll know when you meet somebody where you've got chemistry when it comes to relationships, business relationships, obviously. But, you know, it's about that, you know, like I meet with every single potential client. And if I don't feel that there's a chemistry that we can work together, I will simply say, I just don't think that we're compatible in that way. So it's the same when you meet somebody like that, and you may think that you want to meet them, and then you've also got the online and the offline thing. You could see somebody online and they're totally different when you meet them offline, you know. So it just depends. It really just depends. It don't take those things personally either. I know you may want to do business with that person, but there's so many other people in the room. Don't, you know, just, and if you don't know what's going on, and you know, it could just have an off day. It could be anything. You just don't know, Claire, you know, unfortunately. But try again if you see them at another event, you know.
I have a tip.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I've done in terms of my role and what I've done. And Isabel has a question. I haven't forgotten. I see it there, so I'm going to ask. What I've done is, if sometimes in terms of like your title or what your position is doesn't match the person that you're talking to. So what I will do is I will bring somebody that matches that person's level, if you like. So that could be, if I'm meeting, like I'll be in a university relationships, say, for example, and I'm meeting with the director of a University of Applied Sciences. Now, again, I have access to the president of the college, where he can come with me at a conference and say, look, I need you to work with these 10 people. You know, they align, our visions align, you know, so it's not just a waste of time for the president, because, you know, I get in big trouble. But I need you to, you know, work your, you know, work your
Of course. This is the thing. Like,
so I get someone, you know, depending on what your business is, or if it's you know, that's how I do it, and then that's how I can be then successful.
Yeah,
you know,
look, absolutely. It's kind of that's like reversing the introduction.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're bringing someone that gives you, you know, you credit, or, you know, gives you a bit of kudos to be in the conversation, and for them to give you the time you want. So it's just about thinking that out, you know, like if you really think that you know, I need to talk to this person, they need to hear what I have to say or what I do. Yeah, look, I mean, that's a really good way. You're a clever girl.
But it's not for me, it's for the strategic goals of the organization, you know. And there's like, you know, in higher education, there's politics, you know, there's academics with PhDs. I'm not a doctor, you know, so
of course,
why you're not a doctor, you know, and then you won't give you the time of day. But I'll stop talking there, because I want Isabel's questions there. Isabel, from Brazil, I'm thinking, have you been transferring? How have you been transferring Zoom virtual events? Any insights that you can share? Oh, JCI Dublin, Isabel, excuse me.
What is it?
How have you been
have I been transferring the skills to Zoom? Is it that the networking skills?
Isabel, put on your microphone there.
Hi, Wendy. Hi, Claire.
Yes, she's like,
yeah, so basically, would be, I mean, obviously the insights are really good. I think something that I haven't really thought of about the closed and open group. I don't think I would go there, but now that I'm picturing in my head, that makes sense. But yeah, basically the skills, and especially now that we have moved to this new normal, I will say that, what do you have seen so far? If you can share any insights there.
I suppose good few things that I've seen so far is, from a networking point of view, is you know, use voice message as much as you can. I think that's really, really important, because, you know, you got to get your tone across. You know, that was one of the big things that I struggled with, was, you know, sending emails or sending text messages. It's hard to get across the tone of voice. So, like, for example, I know I'm talking about LinkedIn a lot, but it's a really good professional platform. But if you, there's a little voice message that you can reply to people when you go into your messages. Start to use that when you're trying to network with somebody on LinkedIn that you haven't met before. Also, when you know, these Zoom calls are fantastic, but also do one-to-ones. Out of every Zoom call that you have, you should really do a one-to-one with somebody from that call, you know, that you've connected with or that you find interesting. I think, it's try and find, again, it's pretty much the same as when you're physically networking, because you still need to find the right Zoom calls for you. You don't want to be going to 20 or 30 because you get exhausted. They're tiring, it's a lot. So you have to find a reason to go. And again, you check the attendee list, and you can still see them there, and you could actually send them it's actually nearly easier, because I usually send a private message to them. If I see them on the Zoom call, I can then send them a private message to say, could we have a one-to-one? And sometimes when somebody's a little bit nervous, like we were talking about earlier on, it's kind of easier to do it on Zoom, because they're not face to face. They're not saying, no, we can't do a one-to-one, like, into your face, but you could send them a private message on a call. So there are things you could do as well.
Great, thank you, Wendy.
Okay.
Well, that just leaves us perfectly on time, Wendy. We're bang on 8:30. I'd like to thank you so much for your presentation. I thought it was really, really interesting, and
you're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed being with us this evening.
I did. I'm going to stay on to see John. Great. Because it's always very interesting what John has to say.
John, hello, John. Are you there?
Let me unmute myself. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Woohoo! Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear the
Okay. This man is somewhat of a bit of a legend, and I'm going to introduce you, because boy, can this man talk, Wendy, can't he?
Yes, Claire, totally. I hope you can you mute him at times?
Oh, that's a very good idea.
That's something you can't do in a real networking kind of a scenario.
I don't care. My mother has looked. I don't have an off switch.
Oh, thank you very much, everybody, for continuing to participate on this wonderful event. And the next person I'm going to introduce you to is the legendary John Murray, and he's going to be talking to us about personal branding, substance over superficial. So John is widely regarded as Ireland's leading headshot photographer and trained by the world's leading headshot photographer, Peter Hurley. John is not only an award-winning portrait photographer and speaker specializing in headshots and self-awareness education, he's also the National Director of Individual Development and Training for Junior Chamber International. And it has been my pleasure to be working and hanging out with John. He's fantastic at what he does, and is great fun, and has a great sense of humor. So a brilliant combination. So round of applause for John. Thank you very much. Although we're on mute, probably most of us. And again, if any of you have questions, don't hesitate to put them into the chat or ask at the end of the presentation. So John, you're going to have 20 minutes, yeah? And I'll be timekeeping.
Cool.
Great stuff. Off you go.
Let me share my screen. This one here. Share. Can I get that out of the way? I'm really bad at this technology stuff for somebody who's supposed to be good at it. Anyway, can you all see my slide?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. If I speak, any of the JCI Brazil guys, if I speak too fast, I don't know, hit a button somewhere or scream, and then I'll try and slow down. Can you guys hear me okay? You can't hear the air conditioning in the studio? I'm
good.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for having me. And Claire, thanks for asking. Tynan, great name. I heard Tynan was a JCI Dublin member, and then I heard the name Tynan, and I was thinking that's a very Irish name. And then I saw how it was spelt, and I realized it was a little bit different. Just one of those names that crosses over the Atlantic. Anyway, my name is John Murray, as Claire said, and I mix human behavioral sciences with photography because essentially we don't know, we look like we don't know who we are, and we tend to experience ourselves wrong. So I'm going to talk a little bit about personal brand and brand itself, because I don't think people really understand what brand is, because I have to click on the right thing here. When I Googled brand, this is what came up. You know, marketing, advertising, logo design, identity, strategy, all this. And to be honest, I believe this is crap. It's absolute rubbish, because people don't really understand what brand and branding are, because they're two completely different things. If you look at these are airlines. I hope I got the Brazilian reference in there, because Gol Airlines are supposed to be just as bad as Ryanair. But when we look at brands, so Emirates are an airline. They're a big steel tube that stick people inside and they transport them from one place to the next. Ryanair do the exact same thing, and so do Gol, but they do them in a completely different manner. People still get on the plane and people still fly to the destination, but the experience is different. So branding is the color scheme, and it's the logo, and it's the design, and it's all of the bits and pieces that you don't think about when somebody says, what's Ryanair like, or what's Gol like, or what are Emirates like? They're a fantastic airline or they're a terrible airline, is what the brand is. So, you know, it's how we experience what they are is the brand. Like Jeff Bezos, actually, I'll just do the squishy things thing because I stuck this in here because I did the squishy things thing before and everybody thought it was funny. Right. We are squishy things. People keep saying that headshots are part of brand. Headshots are not part of brand. Your headshots are part of your branding, your logo, your design. When you go onto LinkedIn, the very thing that people see of you is your face. It should be what they see is your face. It should be from your collarbones to the top of your head and nothing more. You shouldn't be showing pictures of you on a stage that one time you did a speech, or you shouldn't be pictures of you on the beach because that's not professional. We need to communicate head and shoulders, just like you can see me now. So humans are squishy things. There's 7.5 billion of us on the planet, and every single one of us are different. But for 90 million years, 90 million years, we've been able to see, we've used visual communication to understand non-verbal cues. So people's body language, how they move their facial expressions, whether they're happy or sad or a threat to us. Then 200 years ago, cameras came along. So that squishy things could take photographs of other squishy things and then look back and see what they look like. So for 90 million years, we have been able to see each other face to face. And for only 200 years, we've been able to record that. The mirror, the glass-based mirror that we all have in our houses that we should be checking every morning before we leave the house, we only have them for 180 years. So even less time than the cameras. So for 90 million years, we couldn't see ourselves. And then all of a sudden we can see ourselves because we have these things in our pockets. They're absolutely everywhere. Everybody has 2 or 3 of them in their pocket now at this stage. And, you know, for all of these years, seeing ourselves was something that we didn't do. So squishy things got the internet 50 years ago. So that squishy things like me could talk to squishy things like you in Brazil without actually having to be in the same room. I'm saying squishy things a lot for a reason. When we think of brand, Jeff Bezos, he gets paid lots of money because he runs Amazon. And he said that your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. But there has to be a precursor to this. Okay, it's what they say about you when you're not in the room, but why are they saying that? It's because it's what they remember. If they can remember something, well, then they're going to say it. If they can't remember something, they're not going to say it. We process over 2 million pieces of information every single minute, from the temperature of your feet that you don't really think about, all the way up to what is actually going on at the moment, like you're listening to me, trying to figure out why John is saying squishy things so many times and is speaking really fast. So when we understand what it is that people remember, maybe there's a way that we can steer that. Because when we look at the human brain, because all information starts and ends with the human brain. So when we look at the brain, the bit that looks like a walnut is called the neocortex. That is the logical thinking, problem-solving part of the brain. The bit that's highlighted in the middle that kind of looks like a lemon is the limbic system. And that's the emotional center of the brain. And the bit down here that looks like a strawberry is your cerebellum. And that's the bit that steers the ship. That's the bit that controls your breathing, your breath rate, your heart rate, your balance. All of the things that you don't think about from moment to moment are run by that. And the 2 older parts of your brain, the emotional center of your brain, the limbic system in the middle, and the bit that looks like a strawberry, the cerebellum, they work really, really well together without us having to interfere. But there are those moments where your logical thinking brain is going to step in and it's going to say, oh my God, this is bad. This is terrible. Don't do this. Especially when people are going to walk into this studio to have their photographs taken, because your brain is blind and deaf. It doesn't understand the difference between a thought and an actual a situation. It doesn't understand thinking about having terrible photographs taken or being attacked by a lion. It doesn't matter. If you think you're in a position that's going to be negative, you're going to have to go and see your mother-in-law or something, you know, one of those things starts to trigger fight or flight reaction hormones. It starts to trigger a sequence of events that tells us that we're uncomfortable. Even though you're not standing face to face in front of your mother-in-law, you're not actually in that interview. Whatever is going on inside your head is being worn on your body because the rest of your brain is responding, and it's telling your body to respond as if you're actually there already. So stress reactions happen because we're stressed. We're stressed because something is either happening in front of us or because we're thinking of something happening. Now, we can control that memory. And the reason the 50 Shades thing is here is not for the girls. It's actually for everybody. But the 50 Shades thing is here because when we read a book, you read Harry Potter, you read 50 Shades, you read any book, it doesn't really matter what it is, you form an opinion of how that looks. You form an opinion of how the person looks. You form an opinion of how they sound. Every time you turn a page, you form an opinion visually of what you think that looks like, what you think that feels like, and that experience is like. Because again, your brain is blind and deaf. It doesn't understand the difference between active thought and the physical presence of those stimulations or those stimuli. So when you sing happy birthday to yourself in your head, not out loud, the auditory complex in your brain is active in the same way it would be if you were listening to somebody singing happy birthday. If you imagine an apple in front of you, your occipital lobe is active in the same way it would be if you were standing looking at an apple, because your brain doesn't know the difference between the fact that it exists in the room or it's just something we're thinking about. So when we think of stressful situations or we think of anything like that, again, it builds up all these stress reactions. We think of something positive that happened, and again, it releases endorphins. It tells our body to feel good, to look good, because something is good, something good is happening. This is that thing about 2 million pieces of information. Wendy was only just talking about it a second ago. How do we make people remember us? How do we make people want to connect with us? You can control every piece of information that's out there, every piece of information that's about you, and it's all about your brand. So what you represent, how you carry yourself, how you talk to people, and how you do that across your different platforms is very important. How do you make people remember you is by being you. Not trying to be anybody else, not trying to measure yourself against anybody on Instagram or anybody on Facebook or anybody on LinkedIn who has more followers than you. What you do is you present yourself in the way you would to your friends and family, but you do it in a way that, like, you're not going to throw bad words around in front of people that you meet for the first time at a networking event, because it just wouldn't be cool. You know, they're the sort of things that you don't do on LinkedIn, where it might be okay for my friends down the bar, down in the pub, or for my family. So just remember that there is a difference, but you can still control every piece of information that they absorb. I do it, I call it multi-dimensional communication. So when people walk into this studio, there's music playing. They're greeted in different ways. We all do different things that represent me. So that music is 80s cheese music. It's terrible, but I like it. So when they walk into the studio, you get to experience that because it's part of my brand. It's part of how they experience me. So the things that we can do is we can create impact and then become a habit. So the very first time you tasted chocolate, your brain said, oh, what was that? What did it look like? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? Where did you get it? All of these things are lined up to say, this was good. It provided energy. It provided sugar. This is good for us. It's not the best thing for you, but we do remember it. And because we remember that, all of those things go into our brain and we sit there and it goes in as an impact, and it's something that stays there. And if we want to reinforce that, it has to become a habit. But we all remember where we were when this happened. Now, I know there's probably people on this call who weren't even born or that were very, very young when September the 11th happened. And it's probably not the best image to use after saying impact. But what we're saying here is that when this happened, your brain didn't know that you weren't there. When you drive past an accident on a motorway, your brain doesn't know that you're not involved. You might be on the opposite side of the road, but what's happening is your brain is trying to protect you from that negative situation. It's trying to tell you to stay away from it, even though it's only on TV. So what happens is you start releasing adenosine and cortisol and glucagon and epinephrine, which are all your fight or flight reaction hormones. And they're telling you to switch on your sight, your sound, your smell, your taste, and your touch. Switch everything on and remember absolutely everything you can about this moment because it's negative and it's terrible. Protect yourself. So when these things are happening, they happen in the moment, but we remember it. So there are things you can do all day long. Wendy was only talking about it a second ago. It's these little things that help people remember you. If you're on LinkedIn, send people voice notes and say, thank you for connecting. I hope you're well. It doesn't really matter what you say in it, but make it personal. Because we've all got those messages on LinkedIn. You know, you connect with somebody, 2 seconds later, you get an 8-page essay telling you everything they've done since they left school. And it's just not interesting. You know, when you get those, I block them straight away. I report them for spam and I get rid of them. I don't want to know. I don't want to know because you're not interested in me. And I'm clearly not interested in you if I'm not going to read your 8-page essay on everything you've done since you kissed your wife that morning. So I send these voice notes just because it's personal. That guy, I just said, hi, Paul, John here. Just wanted to say thanks for connecting. I hope you're well. Have a great weekend or whatever it was. And he sent me back this cool little message saying that he didn't even know you could do that. These things on social media help you stand out. The other thing we're doing is we're putting human back into technology. For millions and millions of years, we've used our voices and we've used our visual representations of ourselves and empathy to understand and to communicate with other people. 50 years ago, we got technology and the internet, which takes that away. And we all know when you've sent text messages to a friend and the friend has come back to you going, what are you talking about? You know, they completely read it wrong. And you're like, oh, I was joking. And they're like, that didn't sound like a joke. We lose most of our communication in the fact that we don't have nonverbals. We don't have tonal inflection because about 5 to 7% of our communication are the actual words we use. So this is just one way that you can make sure that you stand out. People are going to notice you because something different happened. Okay, you're not crashing anything into buildings or you're not on a motorway accident, but what you're doing is you're telling them that you're slightly different and you're interested in them as a human. And I just think that's a cool little thing that you can do on LinkedIn. So the other thing is to become a habit. I post LinkedIn videos 3 days a week and everybody knows me for it. People approach me in the street and say, oh, you're John, the photo guy. I follow you. And then they walk away, leaving me standing in the street thinking, where did they follow me? Did they follow me into the toilets? Weirdos. So habit is about being present. And it's about being present in the minds of other people. So no matter what you're doing, you can create an awareness within them that every single time somebody thinks of you or they think of your industry, that you're the first thing that comes to mind because you're ever present. You know, okay, 3 days a week is not too bad. When you post the videos are maybe 2 minutes long. And I don't talk about headshots. I talk about human condition. I talk about whatever's going on inside here, but people relate to it because I'm talking about the same things that they're thinking about. But that keeps me in their mind. And people constantly come through the door here. Works for me. It can work for you. Again, how do people remember me? This is a big one. You see, we live in a world that we're not really sure. We're not sure what other people are expecting because we have this thing called the gap. It's a gap of self-acceptance and it's a gap between how we think we look and what we think the rest of the world sees. And we have a gap between who we believe we are as opposed to who we think the rest of the world expects us to be. Now, for some people, that gap is tiny, and for some, it's huge. Most people know it as imposter syndrome. And that gap can be so significant that people won't do things like look at themselves in the mirror. They won't talk to themselves. They won't give themselves the credit for the things that they do every day. And, you know, this is an example of the gap. This guy is Jonathan. He's a neurosurgeon. He actually sticks his fingers into people's heads for a living. And he walked into the studio and I said, look, just do whatever you think you should do. And he did the image on the left. He was uncomfortable. His limbic system was telling him he's uncomfortable. That glow in the dark bit of the middle of the brain, that was sending messages down to the strawberry that was telling him to back away. Don't be here. And then his neocortex, the logical thinking part of his brain said, oh, we're in front of a camera. It's time to smile. Smile his mouth. Move your mouth. And he moved his mouth. And it was weird. But that's not what he looks like. But that's what he believes he looks like. To everybody else, based on the evidence he has, he thinks he looks like the guy in the photograph on the left, but it's not. The image on the right is what he looks like to everybody else in the world. He's tall, he's confident, and he's very competent. You see, not only do we not know what we look like, we lack empathy. Empathy towards ourselves. If you say something negative to somebody, they'll respond. They'll respond probably by looking like Jonathan on the left. But that's only if they're being pleasant. You know, what we see is we see their posture change, we see their facial expressions change, and we see them hurt. But because we see them hurt, we can apologize and we can understand what we've done. We feel bad for what we've made, how we've made them feel. But we can't do that with ourselves because you can't see yourself. So we lack empathy towards ourselves because vision by its very nature is external. So you can't experience yourself and you can't experience the negative things that you say about yourself by seeing how it affects you. If you were to stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself you're fat, you're old, you're ugly, your hair is terrible, you've got weird ears, you've got a weird nose, terrible crooked teeth, it wouldn't be very long before you stopped doing that in front of the mirror. Because you know that it's wrong. Because it makes you feel wrong. But when we do it walking down the street, it's fine because we can't see ourselves and we don't have to experience the change that comes over people when you say something bad. So one of the big things is, who am I? You can't answer that question without knowing who you are. You can't answer that question without having some sort of an indication as to what other people see of you. We have superiority complexes, inferiority complexes, but we don't have interiority. The one thing that we should be measuring ourselves against is ourselves. 7.5 billion people in the world. Can you be better than everybody else? No, you can't. Can you have more followers on Instagram? No. Because we're just normal people. And we're told that we're normal people. But when you look at yourself, this is one of the big questions that I ask people is, who am I? I'm John, I'm a kayaker. I bore people to tears talking about kayaking. I'm a photographer, I'm a JCI member. I am a husband, a son, an uncle, lots of other things. But they're the things that matter. Not my followers on LinkedIn and not my followers on Instagram or anything else that I do. That stuff doesn't matter. Measure myself against anybody else doesn't matter. My imposter syndrome definitely doesn't matter. People keep asking me to do things like this because they see value in what I do. Not because I might be terrible and everybody gets a good laugh at it. I'm missing slides here. So I'm going to have to go back and make some stuff up. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, look, when we talk about brand, one of the big things that we need to talk about is ourselves and how we see ourselves as a brand. Because if you're only looking externally, that's the only thing that you're measuring yourself against, and you're measuring yourself against everybody else's brand, but you're not having any relationship with your own brand. If people spoke about you the way you speak about yourself, you call them an asshole. You'd be completely horrified at the things that they say. You're overweight, you're underweight, you're just not nice, you're not cool, you're not fast, you don't drive a cool car like everybody else does, you don't measure up to everybody else on Instagram. And we believe that's our brand because that's what we think people is experiencing of us. But it's not what they experience of us. People see all the cool things that you do every single day that makes you a superhero, all the little superpowers that you have. You know, all through COVID, JCI members are out there every single month or every single week trying to make a difference. You're out there doing for the good of the village so everybody benefits. And you don't see that in yourself because your vision is external. You only see what you can measure yourself against externally rather than looking at what you're measuring yourself against internally. So all of the cool things you do as parents, any parents that are on now, like, first of all, you've made a human, probably more than one. Not only did you create a human, now don't go calling yourself an English language teacher, but you do teach them to speak. So you give them the tools that they need to live a life. You teach them to find food, shelter, water. You teach them to be kind. You teach them to be caring. You teach them to be funny. You teach them all of the bits and pieces that they are that make up their personalities, and you help form them. How cool is that? When's the last time you patted yourself on the back and said, I made a person? I can't color in without going outside the lines. Never mind make a person. But we do all of these amazing things every single day that we don't see because we don't look internally. You're a lot cooler than you think you are. Look, it doesn't really matter what you experience or what you think other people are experiencing of your brand, because your brand is you. You are your brand. Every single day, every single moment, every single person you talk to experiences your brand. You just don't think about it. So all of the cool things you do every single day that you never pat yourself on the back for, they're all part of you. They're all the reasons your friends and your family love you. You know, when we look at ourselves and we say, my nose is too big, people walk into this studio and say to me, oh, I hope you're good with Photoshop, or I'm not photogenic, and they apologize. I've even had people walk into this studio and say, look, I'll tell you honestly, I can't look at myself in the mirror. What people are doing is they're diminishing their brand, but they can't see themselves, so they can't feel sorry for themselves. They can't apologize for the things that they say. So when you're looking at your brand and you're worried about what everybody else is going to think, it starts here and here. You need to understand that you're better than you think you are. You're cooler than you think you are. You don't need a Ferrari. I've tried to get my wife to buy me one, but just I've been told I don't need one. Difference between wants and needs. But look, I always finish out with these slides. How you walk and the skin you wear is your decision. Why not embrace it? Because what other choice do you have? And that's me.
Oh, wow. John, that was amazing. I can't believe you were so good. And I'm only slacking. I know John a good while. Thanks a million. That was an amazing presentation. I was a bad timekeeper there. We're at 20:56, but I just thought what you had to say was
that's some
good.
sort of record for me.
Huh? Yeah. So look, I'm not going to talk just for a minute and just see, does anybody have any questions for John for a super interesting presentation?
I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay, well, I have one for you. So how do you, maybe I don't know if it's appropriate, but just, you know, that kind of imposter syndrome, how do you encourage people to get out of that negativity, or, you know, what's your strategy there? And then also my second question is, in terms of your personal brand, how did you get to be so known for, you know, what you do? Is it just consistency in terms of, you know, your posts on, LinkedIn, being authentic? Because that's what I think, that's what really comes across. I follow you on LinkedIn, and I love looking at your little videos, and that's what I see, authenticity, and you've got something to say. So how are you building your personal brand and also getting over that imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. I tell you honestly, I suffer with imposter syndrome all the time. It's horrible. It's debilitating. I was only speaking about this morning, actually. A friend of myself and Wendy's was in the studio, and I was talking about imposter syndrome. I suffer with imposter syndrome all the time. I get asked to speak on stages. I'm after being asked to speak at the Mental Health and Wellbeing Summit here in October. Everybody else that is speaking, their first name is professor or doctor. And as soon as I saw it, I went, I'm the shooty people in the face dude, and I just get up and have fun. You know, imposter syndrome kicked in. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to get up and talk about like neuroscience and neurology. And, you know, I know the stuff, but I'm going, oh my God. I have to share a stage with these people, and I'm nowhere near as qualified as them. But the one thing that gets me through that is to go, actually, hold on. They see value in me based on what I put out there. They see value in me based on my brand. They see value in me because they've heard me speaking somewhere else. So they know I know what I'm talking about, because their brand is just as valuable to them. They're not going to stick me on a stage to talk between professors and doctors if I don't know what I'm talking about, or they don't believe I know what I'm talking about. So I could be just really faking it. So, but oh well. But that's the thing that gets me through my imposter syndrome, is I remind myself they see value in me. Like, how cool is that? I was speaking at a book launch recently, and it was on deal making, and I was like, oh my god, I just have prices on my website. People pay them. Like, I don't, and I wouldn't mind. I said yes to doing the book launch, even before I'd asked what the book launch was about. That's it goes to show what sort of a deal maker I am if I don't even ask questions about what the book is on. But the guy before me was Kingsley Aikens, and the guy after me was Marshall Goldsmith, both of them Pendulum Summit speakers that charge thousands and thousands and thousands for like a 20-minute speech. So major imposter syndrome, but I got up because I thought, do you know what? Simon sees value in what I do. He sees value in what I say, because there must be something to it. And that's the one thing that gets me through time and time again with the imposter syndrome. And the thing that I've done to grow my brand is I've not tried to force it. I get up every day, I come into the studio, I'm interested in people, I'm interested in faces, I'm interested in psychology, I'm interested in the human condition, and that's what I'm interested in. So I just come in and I have fun. And people, like, they respond to that. And one of the best things that's ever happened to me is that people evangelize over me. Like, the people who've been in the studio go, oh my God, that was so cool. I don't know what happened. I went into the studio. He said, do something with your head. And then he just messed with me for a while. And I got confused and I laughed lots. And then I saw the pictures and they were cool and it looked like me. But they don't need to remember all of the bits and pieces that happened in the studio. Just the fact that they felt amazing afterwards and that they actually looked like themselves and they're not uncomfortable looking at the images. So they leave here and they go off and they tell their friends and they tell their husbands, because Wendy's husband has cool blue eyes and he's gorgeous. You know, all these kind of cool things happen. And that's how my brand has grown. You know, my brand has grown organically because people get something from it and people will talk about it. And that's where I get most of my clients. 96, 97% of my clients are referrals or returning clients. The rest come because they're looking at my YouTube videos and my LinkedIn videos and thinking, he's weird, let's go and see him. But that works for me. I don't hide behind anything. I don't, like, it's all evidence-based. It's just science.
Yeah, and I think with you, John, what you see is very much what you get, Wendy. What do you think? Well, listen, anybody else have a question at all? Sorry, I know I asked two. Anybody else? No? Oh, okay, one. From Leandra, from JCI Dublin. How can we make a good impression through our headshot on LinkedIn, for example?
Good question. Easy is to show genuine expression. We can all stand there like a politician and pull this weird face, but that's not going to do any favors for you. Your LinkedIn image should be from your collarbones up to the top of your head, because the image on LinkedIn is going to be a centimeter in height. It's tiny, absolutely tiny. So what you can do is make sure that you're nice and close to the camera and you're basically filling the frame like I am right now. Look straight down the lens. I tell everybody to squeeze their lower eyelids because it shows happiness and confidence. And when you drive your head forward, it means that people are paying attention to you. And that's one of the big things that you can do. Another thing is when you're on your LinkedIn, use your LinkedIn as if you're actually talking to people. Because the worst thing you can do is use it as a white sheet of paper that you're just writing stuff down on. If people are reading that, they want them to read it and to experience your LinkedIn as if they're experiencing you. That's why I shoot the videos. And that's why when I make a mistake in my videos, I leave them in. I just make jokes about John makes mistakes in LinkedIn videos and he leaves them there. Because it's genuine and it's reactive, and that's what people engage with. People don't want you to be too perfect, because if you're too perfect, you're unattainable and you're just way out of their league. I'm out of everybody's league, but look, I just let them in.
Thanks, John. One comment there from Patrick Daly. Great talk, John. Still using the headshot you did for me. I must figure out how to use it to Zoom too.
Cool. Patrick Daly, you're Thing's boyfriend. Isabel's boyfriend. And you look like Ramsey, only without all of the lines on your face and stuff. He's a cool face. There he is. Look at him. Gordon Ramsay, only without the lines.
Okay.
I don't know about that. I'll take it as a compliment.
It is.
Okay, guys, look, we're going to wrap it up there. Listen, I just want to say thank you so much, John and Wendy, for your amazing presentations. Like, wow, you have set the bar high, you two, for the next round of speakers that are going to be talking tomorrow evening for us, and on Wednesday evening as well. If you'd like to tune in to hear some more very interesting topics on online digital marketing and LinkedIn, we have Emma Boylan and Martin Murtig that are talking at 7 p.m. tomorrow. And at 8 p.m. we have Gillian Fagan, who is going to be talking about the importance of mental health and talking about burnout, which I think are two, both topics are extremely interesting. So I'd just like to, just before we go, would it be possible for all of you guys to turn on your camera? And I'd just like to take a little picture. And a big thank you to Tynan as well, Mariana, who's behind the scenes there. My partner in crime, Leandra, as well, and Rona Nisi as well, for helping us organising this fantastic event. And so myself and Tynan go back many years. We used to be in JCI Dublin together, and we've been to a couple of, was it the World Conference, I think, was it in Germany, Tynan? Where we were at. So yeah, so special love for Brazil, and I know Ronan does as well. Have special love for Brazil. Still haven't been there yet, but it's on my list, guys. It's on my list. Yeah. So if you could all just say, I don't know, cheese. I'm not being very inventive there. Anybody else? John, what's
don't
the
look
best word when you're smiling? Huh?
I tell people to not look constipated.
Okay, don't look constipated.
See, it works.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. The other thing as well, if you're linking in tomorrow, it's the same the same Zoom link. Isn't that right, Tynan? Yeah. So you don't need any other details. It's just the link tomorrow to access the Irish speakers. So 7 p.m. is the first one Irish time, and then the following one is 8 p.m. And thank you so much to Wendy and John. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was just an absolute pleasure to have you guys. So what I'll do is, if it's okay, I might just link them to your LinkedIn profiles. Is that okay? And to your DigiCard website, and John, to your website as well. And if you need to get in touch with those guys, you can go there directly. Okay,
thank you for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good evening.